Welcome everybody to the June 25th Planning Board meeting. Being 7 o'clock, we're going to get started. We're going to start with the BAR. I think the first on the agenda is Ossining Children's Center. And I think we pretty much reviewed this at the work session.
Right, Mr. Chairman, what it would be is we did previously provide site plan and BAR approval. As the board is aware, at the work session there were discussions of a couple of minor changes. If the board recalls those changes, we can vote to approve based upon what was presented at the work session, and I can just draft a revision to that resolution. I can advise that the building permit has been issued for Ossining Children's Center, so they are moving along in that regard. So this is really more with regard to their BAR changes that they presented last time. If the board is okay with that, we can just proceed with a revised resolution that I can have for the board at the July meeting.
Questions from the board? Questions from the public? So I'll call for a motion to approve the amendments to the Board of Architectural Review approval. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move.
Second.
Michael, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
And next on the agenda is BR 1612 Otis Curtis.
Mr. Chairman, actually there's a resolution in your packet tonight with regard to that. If you recall, Mr. Curtis came to the work session. There were a few changes with regard to color that he was proposing with regard to his house. He was going to put spruce, I believe, on the first 2 floors.
Right.
So I've incorporated that into the resolution. So if the board wants to approve that this evening, that revised resolution can simply be signed this evening, and we can proceed with that.
Right. If the board recalls, I think the biggest change was the color selection and some finishes. Everything else was sort of as is. So again, if I could have a motion to approve the BAR resolution as Stewart's been prepared. Rob?
Second.
Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, rolling right along, BAR 6-19, Maria Chillogalli.
Anyone here 24.5 William Street?
Maybe we should recall them
Let's do that.
Yeah.
because they might have gone to the
Right.
other.
Okay, well,
I
that's
was going
fine.
to say, tonight we're here, and maybe there's some
Not a
confusion.
problem.
19 Campwoods, BR 1119.
That's JB.
JB, so I'm assuming JB knows where. Okay, so I'll just roll that over to. Okay, so Hudson EFT, 80 Main. Yep.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you. I will keep it very short. Let's keep it real. It's a very simple change. As I was here at the last planning board meeting, you remember. What we did, it was just lower the level of our yard. So the only architectural change to the building is that we had today an exposed wall here, which is right at the first line over there, on top, above the ramp, where we have there, about there. Okay, and we are now, since we are lower,
Oh, sorry.
it's okay.
So my recollection is last month we addressed the site plan issues. My recollection is last month we addressed the site plan issues.
Yeah,
I think we spent some time talking about a fence that was on that lower level.
yeah, correct.
That's just.
We approved conditionally to the village engineer, which I'm waiting to hear his comments, okay? Approve the site plan, and now, to make it simpler, okay, I'm going to mark up here a line. This is where now our stone wall goes, and this we are lowering now the level of the yard to create that concrete wall below, which you can see over there. We are veneering this part of the wall with the same material that we have above. Nothing more than that changes. To make it clearer, I got the rendering, okay, which shows the level of the wall before was about here, half of what it is now, and we are taking the same veneer and we are bringing it down. By law, because we have a door here and we want access to that yard that is part of what we lost when the wall collapsed, okay, we need to provide a handicap ramp, okay, and we are adding this handicap ramp, which is by law, we have to provide if any able person has to be able to access that yard, we have to provide a ramp for a disabled person to access that yard too. So we are adding this ramp. We are adding, okay, right here at the new retaining wall that we're building, and we eliminated the chain fence that divides 60 Main Street
That was
from.
below. I'm sorry, I remember very clearly what we
Yeah.
had last time. What's the distinction between then and now?
Nothing.
Oh, so
We eliminated.
you're just showing us the changes you made, so, that
Well,
we asked for.
Well, the
The
last
chain
time,
link-
last time we didn't address a Board of Architectural review issues,
Okay.
so I'm adding them now
I
to the
see.
presentation.
Right, I think the biggest takeaway was gonna be what that finish is gonna look like.
Right,
A
correct,
sample.
exactly.
Oh,
No,
so
wait.
I understand.
Exactly. So now, the change is that with the same material that we have now, about is 10 feet of foundation wall, and now because our yard is going to be lower, and the foundation wall, which is concrete, is going to be exposed, we are going to veneer that wall with the same material that we have on top, matching same color, same stone, exactly the same.
How big of a drop down is that in
About
elevation?
10 feet.
How many?
It's about 10 feet.
And
Yeah, 9 to 10 depending on where, but it's about that. You can see that the wall here, which you can see better there, you see that it varies in height because of the topography of there. So it goes like about 5-6 feet on one end, go to 3-4 feet on the other end, where it beats the parking lot level, and the maximum height, okay, is about 10 feet. However, the funny part is that you don't see this from anywhere. Okay, if you go Main Street, because you're looking up so far up, really all what is there, and this new wall that we're building there basically covers everything. So the only place that you can see this here is if you're flying with a helicopter about 20 feet, 30 feet above Main Street. Otherwise, you will never see anything. The only thing that you see is probably maybe 2 feet of the existing wall.
So just a question, at some point, could there be some planting along that too to soften that up or give it some sort of a green kind of,
Well, all this area here, that is the new yard that we are creating, which we are recuperating from what we lost, all that is going to be grass, and yes, it's going to be planting. I'm sure people are going to put some tables, umbrellas there, okay, area. This is the area of recreation that we lost before, yes.
okay, and the product is you said it's a veneer, so is it a panelized product? Is it
No,
something that-
it's just stone, it's a real stone.
Okay, and this is certainly an application that would be appropriate for concrete foundation, there's no issues with
Yeah, because,
adhesion or
yeah,
the longevity of the product or?
yeah, because it's exactly the same product. We have concrete foundation wall here, and we apply that stone veneer, and we are doing exactly the same thing there. So basically, it's no different.
This is gonna last for a long, long time, we're not gonna have to worry
Well,
about
it's stone, it's real
shearing
stone.
off or?
No, it's real stone. It's not like a synthetic product or a product that will fade or anything like that. It's real stone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an advantage over, doing something that's,
Yes, sir.
potentially could wash out or
You
shear
could
off.
say that that's a ramp.
Yeah.
That's a ramp. How long is that?
But the ramp by law is about an inch per foot. So this ramp here is close to like 30 feet, but every 30 feet by law you have to leave 5 feet for a wheelchair
Or the landing?
for the landing, correct. Okay, and then you can continue with another 30 feet, then you turn around, and then until you meet. The slope of the ramp is about 18%, that's what is called for ADA.
I think children, kid would have a great fun roller skating down there.
Well, we have a, let's say, a good management company taking that, and like in every building,
I don't know
you
whether-
can say this is not permitted, but we cannot, let's say, eliminate the ramp. By law, we have to provide the
Is
ramp.
the ramp, is that ramp the only way in and out of that space?
Of the basement? No, there are 2 stairs and an elevator.
I mean, to the green
To the
space?
open
to the-
space.
To the green space.
Oh,
is
to
there
the
another means of
green
access?
space, yes. To the green space, the ramp is the only way out.
Could you get out at this end?
I could get out of this end, yes, you can climb this end here and get out of here.
A gate, like if there's an emergency, people could walk?
Yeah, you can get, you can navigate here and go to the grass. Yeah, you can do that.
So how high is that fence going to be?
It has to be 4 feet by law,
4 feet?
48 inches, yeah, yeah. But Francis' question is, yes, we can provide a gate here. Okay, it's an outdoor space anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like an indoor space, but yeah.
Just
Actually, a gate will be good for like maintenance and
Yeah.
You'll
I
need,
think it's a good idea. I
access
think it's a
for
good idea.
landscaping.
Yeah, landscaping.
I mean, just a
things.
thought, is there a possibility of introducing some sort of planting along that ramp, like some sort of planters or boxes or something suspended from there? Is
The
that?
ramp is just wood, so it's not like
Wood.
there is no room to plant it. It has to be the ramp.
Well, I'm saying sometimes you'll have a steel railing system that you could maybe put planters on. I mean, just a thought.
Oh, that you can, for example, we can hang planters there, so in the summer, like, to make that better, yes. I think it's gonna look good. I mean, it's nice in the summer to hang some planters over the rail, so you have flowers and things like that. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, yeah. Yeah, it can be done.
And
And
then,
we have, I'm sorry.
sorry, just one more question.
Yeah.
Then from where the lower fence is, how much more of a drop is it to the bottom?
From here to the bottom, you see it over there. Okay, you see that it varies at the very bottom. You see that the wall, that's the wall, and it varies from 2 feet, it goes to 10 feet maximum, and then it starts going up again. That's the new wall that we're building.
No, I meant on the other side of the fence, the remainder of the drop.
On the other side?
down-
Oh,
The
no.
remainder of the drop down to the bottom of the
See,
site.
from here to there,
Yeah.
To like
it's
60
about
main.
an,
Like how far is it dropped to 60 main, I guess, from there?
oh, from 60 main, it varies between 3 and 4 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have, did you submit samples yet, Hugo, to to Tracy or to the?
No, I didn't submit anything, the
You already-
stone is there, is what it is.
He already has this.
Okay, we already have submitted samples of everything in the past, yes.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone from the public here to speak to the VAR aspect of this? Please just state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, Thomas Knight. I'm representing 22 State Street, Austin, New York, which is Corinthian Lodge. And this is talking about the building that's the old Moose Lodge, correct?
The old Elks Club.
The Elks Lodge, I'm sorry, Elks Lodge.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so the concern of the people that live on State Street is the view of the river. And when this building was built, it took away that view. And they had a concern about it where it affected their view, number one. You had a problem with the wall, it collapsed, correct? Yes or no?
I'm not interrupting you. Yes.
Okay, well, I asked a question. I didn't
Oh, I'm
get an answer.
sorry, I didn't.
Why don't we do this, address the board if you have a question, and then we'll.
Was there a
ask
problem
for
with
response from the applicant.
with the construction of the property? Because what I'm hearing right now is that there are different owners to that property. Am I correct with that assumption or not?
Well, I think, we're dealing with some aftermath of a wall collapse. The village engineer, the village building department's been involved in this for almost the past year now, just trying to get the situation under control. on and off, we've been dealing with the applicant here for, the past year to try to deal with this. I'm not really sure what else we can speak to. I mean, we've, as a board, asked, I think, important questions about the stability of the foundation. We're told it's bedrock, our engineers giving us assurances of these things, so.
Well, the concern of the citizens that live in that vicinity, 22 State Street, around where this building is built, is that they felt that they were deprived of the view of the Hudson River. All right, and so they were looking for some type of tax break or something in regards to this building being built, number one. The other concern was the fire department being able to get in there and fight a fire if need be and not have their homes burnt down. And I don't know if that's been addressed or not. And also, I'm a former board member for the Ossining School Board. I spent 15 years on Ossining School Board. And we always looked at impact fees. How is this set up with, as far as people living there? Does it affect the taxes with the children moving in there as such? Was that taken into consideration by this board?
So I think, look, the simple answer is to a lot of the questions, yes. I mean, over the years, we've done a site plan review, the whole process. This applicant went through the review process. Consultants were hired by the village. We reviewed everything. Again, this project's been going on for the better part of 10 years. Is that the fair? 8 years. And there was lengthy public hearing. Again, basically, everyone on this board, except for me, wasn't on the board at that time. So I'm just telling you from my recollection that we went through the process, site plan approval, board of architectural review approval. People were afforded an opportunity to speak about this. We did take into consideration many of their comments. And we're where we are now. So we're left with a building that, the applicant wants to get completed so he can start to rent it up. It's a difficult position. I mean, in essence, this building was built a few years ago, and sort of some unfortunate things have happened. Before the wall collapsed, there was an issue with age appropriateness to the building, if it was for seniors or whatever the age limit was. We worked through that. So, unfortunately, this applicant's had a bit of a challenge. But I think, again, as a board, we've done everything we were supposed to do, what we're tasked to do, and that's why we're here.
So is it fair to say that a fire truck can get in there with no problem and fight a fire if necessary? Is that?
I think whatever we did, we took into consideration the fire department's input. I believe the chief signed off on this. The building department wouldn't have issued permits if they felt there was issues with the fire safety, egress, access, all those things. I'm pretty certain there's sprinkler systems in the building. So again, we've pretty much checked off all the boxes we were supposed to check off.
So the fire chief signed off that his trucks can get in there with no problem and do what they need to do. That's fair to say?
And certainly you're welcome to go to the building department and pull the file, review the records. I think there's ample documentation there to hopefully show that that's the case.
Okay. All right, for now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, good evening. My name is Robert Corky, representing the owners of 60 Main Street. They're here with me this evening as well. I appeared at the last board meeting, you recall, and I raised some questions that we may have had with the plan. Since that time, I did ask our consulting engineers, Mr. Rutledge Consulting, to review the plans that were submitted. They didn't have opportunity before the last meeting. I did submit to the village this week a copy of their comments, the draft comments related to the plans. I don't know if they were shared with the board, so I brought, okay, good, with the board. I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to argue the points there. The point that I have with this is that, and there's pending litigation, so I really don't want to go astray on anything.
Yeah, remember, we're here to talk about the architecture and
That's right.
finishes. We're not really here to litigate or
I'm not
preside
going
over
to do
some
that
areas.
again, but as it was stated in my letter, I'm asking that the board review or defer its approval of the site plan as presented until a further review can be made of the construction plans for the changes on site. There were obviously issues with the last go-around, not this particular last month, but when that building was created and put up there. There were issues raised. For whatever reason, things were not addressed, and we have the result that we have today. It's not our interest in any way to stop Mr. Subotowski and his group from completing that building. Not at all. I'd like to see it done. My clients would like to see it done. We'd like to make sure it's safe. The issues raised by our consulting engineer, I think, are serious issues that had to do with the original collapse, issues about drainage, issues about the structure of the rock, geotechnic studies. I did not see any of that, and the details are in the report from the engineer. And I'm just asking that that be done before this project go forward. I do believe the villages retained consultants themselves to look at this. I didn't see the geotechnics that weren't, I didn't see them submitted to the village regarding the rock that's there that's supposed to support all of this. We don't see anything in the plans as to where the water's going to go. Where the water went last time caused a major issue here that we're dealing with still. And it's still, I don't see that addressed. I've been doing planning board, zoning board issues for many, many years. And with all due respect, I've seen more consideration for an addition of back porch on a private residence than I think went into this site plan approval process. It was done very quickly. We met with Mr. Subotowski and his team in February, his council for the village, I believe it was February. We had some suggestions. We opposed the cantilevered platform that was there for many reasons. They went ahead. They did a plan, I think it's dated April 3rd, your drawings. We didn't see it. We didn't, no one asked about it.
Well, hold on a second. You just said that you didn't like the cantilever deck.
Right.
And I think the board kind of followed and felt the same way. So Mr. Subotowski came back with, you know, an amended elevation.
I'm not opposed to this plan. I don't think that it's thought out yet, and I don't think all the issues that were raised by our engineer have been addressed.
Well,
I wouldn't like to see
whatever
them
we
go
do
forward.
here, we've already said, I think, you know, we're on record as saying that the village engineer will have the final say in if this happens or not. I mean, we're going to sit here as a voluntary board that reviews the process, reviews the plans, you know, makes a determination, but, you know, we defer to our building department, the building inspector, and the village engineer for a final sign-off.
I appreciate
I
that.
really don't think rehashing this
I'm not asking to
over and over
rehash, but what I'm saying is that that review, in my opinion, should take place prior to site plan approval, not after. Don't start the thing running and then try to stop it. Let them look. If there's a major problem, they're entitled to know. If you're not going to agree with it, your engineer's not going to agree with it, don't tell them in August. Let them know now. He can go forward. We're not interested in not seeing this go forward. We're interested in it going forward safely and not to the detriment of my client.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To just a piece, Mr. Corb's okay concerns, and I appreciate that he like to move this forward. Okay, we did have a full, okay, consulting engineer report for soil. Okay, we didn't just guess where to put the footings. Okay, we do have also, as I said at the last planning board meeting, that we are going to have this engineering consulting firm monitoring every geotechnical work because nobody knows exactly where the rock is. So they are going to come, they are going to explore as we excavate, and they're going to tell us, this rock is good, this rock we have to remove, whatever needs to be done is going to be done. The issue about the drainage, okay, that Mr. Curtis is bringing up is just because he hired an engineering firm, which is a New York City engineering firm. New York City law is different than New York State law. New York City, you cannot dump water in your neighbor's property. New York State law says as Mother Nature falls, okay, and the water will fall. That's the way it is, and that's the way it works. If this building wasn't built, that wall would have collapsed way before that, because there was more water
Hugo,
coming into
Hugo,
it before.
we're here for Board of Architectural Review.
I was going to
You're
read my
not-
last
you're
statement,
not-
yes.
Okay, so
Thank you,
please,
I stop.
we're under a time
I stop.
constraint tonight.
I stop,
Thanks.
I stop.
And again, whatever, you know, your engineering being there, reviewing the technical data, I mean, I'm assuming that that'll be forwarded to the village as it happens in real
Yes,
time.
sir. Yes, sir.
Paul Fraioli, our village engineer, will be
Yes, sir.
reviewing it, and if there's a concern, he would be, you know, advising the building department to get over there and stop things until,
Yeah, and I say thank you, Mr. Graham, for stopping me. You were right, I was being sidetracked. Okay, this is architectural review board.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for the comments of the village engineer, and as we were approved, pending his comments, as soon as we have his comments, we will address them, and we will move forward.
so with all that said, are we comfortable with moving ahead with the VAR aspect of the project?
I just have one
I'm
question,
sorry, sir.
one comment.
Yeah.
The wall, the retaining wall, the new one,
The new one,
right?
yeah.
Every single wall in the entire area, retaining walls, of this different color than this one.
Is what?
All the other retaining walls in the entire area,
Yeah.
there are quite a lot of retaining walls. It's a different stone color than this one.
No, actually, we have several retaining walls on the other side of the property where the neighbors to the east are. And all those retaining walls, they are basically just washed concrete, okay, the natural color of concrete. And this wall will match that. We
I
don't
know
think
we've never seen this color in the area.
this here,
You're talking
are you
foundation
talking
wall?
about this wall?
Foundation wall.
No, this wall is different because it's just the stone veneer that
But it's
half of this
stone
and it's
veneer that's
existing,
not
right?
building now.
So we
To be
cannot,
clear.
we don't think that the rest of the wall should be different.
To be clear, it's the existing
Yes.
color
Yeah,
that's on the exterior
correct,
foundation.
you're correct.
Okay. So with that said, call for a motion to approve it as submitted?
It's just a comment,
Yeah.
it's not a criticism.
No, by all means.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Bob, a second?
I'll second.
Jeff. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much, have a good night.
Yeah, let me see. Did we get 24.5 William Street, Maria, 619? JB, 19 Campwoods?
With the green.
That's actually not on, so I just need you to talk loud.
Just talk loud.
I don't have to follow the microphone. The changes, as per amendment submittal, we made the changes as requested by the board. And also we dealt with the issues that we had on this side. We did move the vent for the unit. So we made a space within the structure to move that. And we also added a double door in the rear, and we broke the samples. So, and we did the windows, we actually made the windows coordinate with the back elevation. And I think those were the key items that we were talking about for this.
Spent the most time really talking about those windows on the front elevation.
Doors in the back and the doors on the side.
And the windows in the rear elevation as well.
There were a few windows that were plain. I forget exactly what the style was.
Yeah, this was and they were together, so we separated the window and we added.
No, I mean in the back, where the
That's where the stairs.
Yeah, it was like a
Right.
smaller window in
You
the back.
changed these.
Yeah, those were changed. There were fixed windows before, which I put the detail now, so they look like similar to the adjacent window. We talked about
The double lines.
we talked about having a single window, but it really doesn't work with the stairs and the layout. So I think that this looks good this way, and also adding the double door at the bottom.
Questions from the board?
All this is met with it.
Yeah, it's a big improvement. Yeah.
Michael?
All right.
You're the one that's probably gonna be looking at this the most.
Definitely.
JV, the material, is that, again, a veneer panel, or is that?
This is a veneer brick and this hardy plank.
Anyone from the public here to speak to 19 Campwoods?
I think we hashed pretty much all this out in the work session.
Yes. Yeah.
Really incorporating all of this.
Yeah. And this helps, I mean, you know, the benefit of the work session is you can fine tune it, bring it in, you know, got nice color samples on the bottom now, this is what we're gonna get.
You even brought the exhaust on.
Yep.
Change the location for kitchen stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just waiting, there's a little deliberation happening over here.
Just was trying to, we were just looking between the, because when you look at the back, just, we're clarifying this on the back, that this, there's no windows here because that's this facade, which is brick on this side, and it's hardy plank on the rear.
Right.
Which I think is better than brick.
Facing the residential area is probably better, but along the parking side, this would be brick. But
Yeah.
just, we were just clarifying. Sorry for the side conversation.
Okay. Okay, so with that said, I'll need a motion to approve the changes architecturally. Jesus, have a second?
Second one.
Bobby, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. So the only other VAR is 6-9, the 24.5 one.
We've not heard from you.
Yeah.
We'll try them again.
Yeah, that was it. Okay, so let's, we'll toggle back to planning board, and I guess we'll go right into 321 North Highland, 5-19, Atria. This was an informal at our work session, I think about 2 weeks ago.
We actually appeared,
They were at the meeting.
Oh, that's
public hearing session.
Voted for notice of intent.
Okay.
And their application has been submitted for code section for review, even though Paul Freely would sign off on it, our engineer, we just thought, worked out all the other issues, but they just got it on Friday.
Okay.
So it's just more of a
Good enough.
report.
Floor is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We understand that the application has been referred out. We understand, I assume we're still waiting for the involved agencies to respond as far as your circulation of a notice of intent to be lead agency. So frankly, we're here just to address a couple of the issues and more importantly, to get any input or questions you may have so that we come back, we'll be in a position to address them. The one issue I think we would like to address, Mike Weller is at, that was raised last time was noise. One of the neighbors raised that. We have started looking at it. So I'd like Mike to do that. And then to the extent the board would like us to do so, we certainly can start addressing some of the comments that were made by the county planning. I don't know how interested you as a group are or aren't, but there are several of them that can be said.
Yeah, recollection was the only comment was from the existing neighbor over at Mystic Point, I guess it was some mechanical, cool air conditioning.
Jeff, you would ask about that.
Yeah, and also, I think a neighbor had made a comment about just issues with drainage. I know you're putting a lot of new, drainage capacity on the site, so maybe those are, you're already looking at that, but the other comment, the main comment appeared to be the noise, so.
The drainage in the SWPPP have been submitted, and your engineer, I believe, reviewed, and certainly Keller, I would assume Keller wrote this. Way beyond my qualifications or pay grade to talk about.
So can you update us on noise, what you have?
Yes, please, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Walterzak with Atria. We have identified 3 rooftop units as the noise-making units. Next meeting, I'm going to have an engineer and a sound consultant. I've already retained them. They're working on this. We're looking at replacing all that equipment with better sound attenuation, all 3 pieces. And that should, it's been told me, significantly reduce the level of sound from those units. And we'll have more specific information at our next meeting, as I said, with the sound consultant and the engineers to talk about specific equipment and certain features in that equipment that is going to, how we're going to specifically handle it to your satisfaction.
So the equipment's gonna stay what it is right now?
We're not changing the equipment right now.
No, I'm saying it is.
When we do this project, as part of the project, we're going to take the 3 rooftop units, and one of them, I forget, it's a special name of it, it's especially, yeah, it's a dry cooler. It's especially relatively noisy. We're going to take those, throw them away, and we're going to put new equipment there that's going to have higher levels of sound attenuation, and by the very nature, they're talking about I don't want to get into too many specifics now, but we're looking at oversizing slightly, so it would be quieter when it started. They don't cycle on and off, and some of the sound consultant believes the cycling is one thing that is very annoying, can be annoying to people, where it goes on and off, and this other piece of equipment wouldn't have that.
So do you foresee that by replacing those 3 units, the complaint of the neighbor will subside?
The 2 neighbors came and talked with me, and I, pretty much indicated that we were going to do our best to try to handle this. I don't know if they're here today or not, but we were already looking at changing that equipment, and since that time, I have told my engineers to pay special attention to quieting that, and to also finding out what the existing machines are generating and what we believe the new will be, the range that the new ones will generate. And technologically there are things that we can do and where we will commit to do them.
Okay, great. And again, whatever Keller recommendations they come back with with regard to the engineering issues, we'll have a chance to review that and address those as well.
Just as background, I'm a lawyer, I can say too much, which is that, again, to put it in perspective, the last time the sound was measured, we did comply with the noise code, but we heard what the neighbors had to say. We want to make it better.
Yeah, I know. I recall, I think when we approved this years back, I think there was some talk about decibel levels. I don't know if the village has changed that ordinance at all. I think there was some leaf blower issues. Right.
It was
That's a
actually,
whole nother story.
it was 55 then, and it still is at its maximum for this kind of noise, and we were under that. And I understand that's about the level of normal conversation, but we're going to do what we can to attenuate it, and you'll have specifics.
So we'll adjourn this till next month, and hopefully by then, our consultant engineer will be able to consult the engineer.
Do you have any other questions in the meantime? Anything that are you going to depend on the engineer's report, or?
Anyone else from the board have any questions about the applicant?
We have the full team here. We have the.
If there's anything in particular that caught your eye and what the county had to say, we can either try to address it tonight or be ready next time around, or obviously any concerns you have.
And I know it's on the EAC agenda for the second.
I did have a call from the fire chief, and he did say that's what, they did meet with them prior, when he came in, and it is what he recollected in his work. He just want to make sure there's condition that the pathway that goes around to the back of the building is maintained for snow removal. So it's always accessible.
We agree that makes sense.
So that was the only comment that we received.
And I know we talked, I don't know if it was the work session or the last meeting, that we talked that the ambulance corps would also be sort of
Yes.
an agent, an involved agency, so they would, okay. So I think it's gonna go, we're gonna cover all the bases, so.
Understood.
So
Thank you very much.
we'll see you next month.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I didn't write the notes.
Showed us some of the VR. Were we doing some of that?
No, it was just, changing windows and things like that's totally cycle, that's not something. It's going to be part of whatever you've approved already.
Okay, so we don't need to vote again.
Okay, so last, I guess, thing on the agenda is Sing Sing Museum. Jerry, you got the floor.
Good evening, everybody. Looks like I know how to clear out a room. We presented the planning board with a request, an application for conditional use permit to operate the museum in the IR zone. The building is currently owned by the state of New York. It is formerly used as their powerhouse. It was constructed in 1936. We are working right now to finalize a lease arrangement with the state to occupy the building. The lease would actually be between the village of Ossining and the state of New York, and the museum would be both the subtenant or the operator of the museum. While that work is in progress, Sandy did introduce a bill this past year, but we weren't able to get it through short time period left before the legislature recess for the summer, but we'll have it available for their consideration in January, and that bill will actually transfer ownership of the powerhouse to the village. And we made arrangements with the Department of Corrections to bring a survey through on site in the next couple of weeks to actually survey the properties that are going to be treated. That's the long-term picture for the project.
So you would have like a meets and bounds.
Absolutely. Meets and bounds.
Description of what would be conveyed to the village at a later date.
Correct. At this particular point in time, though, if you look at drawing A101, I believe it is the site plan, is the project as we currently view it right now. No, it should be, yeah, keep going. Hey, there you go, right there. So that's the site plan as we're currently working on it. The parking lot to the left of the building is the temporary parking that we would construct. We believe there's about 22 spaces in there that we would use to open up the preview center. And the preview center are the two square rooms directly adjacent to that parking area in the building. The plans we have right now, these, yeah, those two right there. Those are the two.
Yeah, it's these
those,
two right here.
those are the two spaces we're going to occupy right now.
From an orientation standpoint, are those the railroad tracks
Yep,
to the right?
those are the tracks to the right. Correct. Currently, right now, we've received notification from the Dormitory Authority that the grants for $2.375 million have been moved to them, and any funds that we expend on the project after May 19th are reimbursable. And we're just waiting for a final arrangement with Empire State Development for an additional $500,000 grant. So the first phase of the project will include preservation of the entire powerhouse, new roof, flashings, windows, etc. Not the entire building, but the portion where we're going to occupy. Cleaning out those two rooms, demolition of the interior space, reconstruction of the bathrooms, and building out what we call a white space for the exhibit design team to come in and put exhibitry in that area. And that smaller room just to the bottom of those two spaces right there, that would be where the new office would be for the museum. Our goal right now is to get a conditional use permit for the building for the project as it stands, but we would come in, because of the nature of this project and as it's going to sequence itself, over time, what we would like to do is get permission to move this far, and then as we start to get other funding to move into the balance of this building, then come back and show you how we would accommodate additional parking requirements and space allocation.
So it sounds like you want to phase this thing, you want to
We would
build
have
this
to
in
phase
phases.
Correct.
So will we be issuing a permit for just the one room and then issuing a CO for that? Is that,
I would
what's the
talk-
thought process?
Well, we talked to the building inspector about this because the village would be, because the building is state-owned, and the village would be the tenant, primary tenant, and the museum would be the quote operator of the museum. The village would, I'm not sure that you can get a building permit at this particular point, but we have given the plans and specifications to the building inspector for review as a place of public occupancy, and we are making sure that all the requirements of the state code are met.
I thought you needed the seeker review done for the entire project.
We do need the seeker review, yes, the seeker
So
review.
concept,
Right.
but they're gonna come back for BAR as the,
As
Things evolve.
as the corridor and all those things evolve. So the seeker is for the complete project and for the conceptual.
And that leads to my biggest, some of the questions I have are, with regard, I guess, on the long-form EAF. I think probably the biggest questions in my mind are, and I think, what I want you to consider, because again, we're not doing a full-blown environmental impact statement here, we're sort of just saying, here's the long-form EAF, let's fine-tune things that we want to ask specifically. And my thought is, what happens if the state says they either need more space, or they're going to expand the prison, or if the state decides to close the prison? I know those are very hypothetical, but I think those are two things that, in my mind, I'd want to sort of have you guys speak to a little bit.
Sure.
Have some sort of idea,
Well, currently in the governor's budget this year, there's a closure of two correctional facilities in the state of New York. They haven't identified which ones yet, but this is one facility that we've been advised won't close. The reason being if its proximity to New York City, the ability for visitors to access it.
I've been working on this project for 15 years, and that's a constant thing.
Yeah.
It's because it's a training facility, and moving the prison any further away from New York City would actually be a hardship on the families that are visiting, and
Sure.
also crucial to the rehabilitation of those incarcerated.
And to Jerry's point, specifically we're looking at the whole site plan, conditional use issue, and again, these are really, what if, very remote possibilities, but if it ever did happen, have an answer, think about it,
Sure.
give it some thought, and so that we can, kind of cross the Ts and dot the Is on this thing.
Yeah, the full EAF has been expanded. It includes traffic, which is, I think, one of the most important considerations, and it also covered the economics impacts. So those two sections were expanded, so if there are other areas of the full EAF that you think that should be expanded upon, they can be developed going into the process.
So in addition to the immediate project that we have in hand, which is what we're showing you what's up on the screen, as Tracy Corbett indicated, the full program does include a connecting corridor between this building, I believe it's in the other packet. It's in the other.
Is there the BAR application?
I don't remember now.
You mean a corridor to the south?
There's a corridor, yes.
To the
Full
1825
project
correct.
includes the corridor to the cell block, and it does include the first 60 to maybe 100 feet inside that cell block to be,
A102, I don't know if you.
that's it, there you go.
A102. I don't know.
Just looked at 101.
A 102?
A102.
Yeah, I think it's a different set of drawings. Tracy, what was the end of that? Maybe just get the back end of it. So like I said, the overall plan will be to connect the corridor and then to actually access the 1825 cell block. We brought the conceptual design of that to Department of Corrections. They've reviewed it, in addition to all the notes that are on there.
Look right before 401. That's the next page. Go one up. That's where,
Yeah,
right next to 4.
okay. Well, you have the hard copy. Yeah, it's in front of you, yes. And we reviewed that with the Department of Corrections, and they were very impressed with the fact that they're able to move people in a secure fashion, maintain the segregation between them and any inmate or any visitor or any correction officer, and bring people back out. And we would do that on a timed basis, limited occupancy in one particular point in time. So
The things that come to my mind when thinking about a project like this are what's the experience and the landscaping and the way it's going to connect in with Angle Park, which obviously town owns, so I don't know how.
And Harbor Square for that matter?
If improvements made on that approach are something that can be,
yes.
you know, I assume the town would have to sign off on that. But,
Yeah, the town's actually very active in this project and has been participating.
Yeah.
We just for the board's information, just 2 weeks ago, we signed a letter of intent with the architectural firm of ENIAC in New York City and the conceptual design firm of THINC. Both of them are very well recognized in the museum world. I think was involved with the 9/11 memorial. He had some very high quality design firm. And they are charged with doing a community engagement process first, developing the exhibitry for the preview center, and also coming up with a master plan for the entire project, which would include landscaping, parking, etc. So
Yeah.
we hope to have that by the end of the year, the full plan.
Because essentially, a park is a big public space, and
Right.
a museum is, you know, a place where the public, it's a community place, and so it just strikes me that this is the landscaping and the visual appearance and feel of that connecting into the park. I mean, people are going to get off the train, they're going to walk through Angle Park to the museum, they're not,
Correct.
you know. So all of that, I think, needs to kind of be part of the plan.
We talked to them about that. Matter of fact, the museum has supported their application to the Greenway Conservancy for a grant to do that, that actual study of making that connection.
And again, maybe there's where we need to do these improvements, maybe to get it more in sync with, so the feel that it all ties together and connects together. That's
The other thing, I was looking at this drawing that you can't find, but
Is there?
so there's a secure area between the power station and the river. That's a secure area that won't be.
Between the power station and the river is the...
That's the county's.
County's wastewater treatment facility.
Wastewater treatment
Okay.
facility.
Yes.
Okay.
You want to pull
So
Google
that's-
Earth?
I can pull it.
Yeah.
That's what we have with the,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the county's facility, Jeff.
Okay.
You have a sewage treatment plant. Sort of.
And I've talked to,
Next to the boat.
Commissioner Lipicki, who runs the County Environmental Facilities Program, about the project. The county's actually supporting the project. They've given us, they've included a grant for $50,000 in their capital budget for 2019, which we're going to use towards the landscaping and design work, and also towards the landscaping. It's part of the Heritage Trail system.
In all the years I've sat, I think that was the shortest referral letter I ever saw come back from the county. It was literally one sentence, just saying, we want to get this thing going.
But anyway, those are just things that come to mind that I
Right.
want to see fleshed out.
We do intend to flush those out as we move along. Like I said, the goal is right now is to get this first phase of work started, to get the preview center up and running, which we anticipate will assist in our fundraising. We just also, for the board's information, we just received a $100,000 grant from American Express for an augmented reality component of the preview center. We just signed that contract with the firm to do that as well.
I'm sorry.
So what's the timeline here, sort of what they're asking? Just how does that fit in with the environmental review, with, you know, obviously we're going to do a site plan, and then they're going to do this in phases. What can you, like, put the order of those?
I mean, I think the Scenes and Prison Museum would like to open the preview center, last I knew was in 2020. And that's what they hope to do. But that would be, you only need to approve really, maybe, I don't know how we can do this, segmenting the conditional use permit, or maybe that there's a condition that we approve the concept of the corridor and that, but you must come back for that. So they're just gonna have to come back so that you can actually see the designs and progressives to allow the seeker, it's almost like a, I don't know, it's almost a GEIS for the project, and then maybe it has to be revised as it moves along.
So do we have
Might
to do
be
the
some-
whole secret process before we okay the first phase of this?
Yeah.
And then that's the
Yeah,
way,
Yeah,
that's
you
sort of what
can
you're
improve the
saying.
seeker. I mean, I think that a lot of the for this museum, a lot of the things or issues are going to be traffic and people navigating there is one of the bigger issues. The site is already developed. As you can see, most of it's already impervious surfaces, and it's also going to be impacting the historic and cultural resources of Sing Sing. Sing Sing is, the entire project is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. And so that's, they're gonna have to take that into consideration. I think they actually have to follow the guidelines because using government money, so it's basically like it's already listed. So those are the type of things you'll consider, I think, when you're reviewing the full EAF, and hopefully you can make that, and then we actually don't have to look at it again. If you're comfortable with the concept of that there could be 130,000 people coming here per year. That's gonna be the big, I think, thing when you're looking at the concept of someone being there in this building and as
Yeah,
the impact of people.
I think the more people that can come on the train,
Absolutely.
all the better, but imagine visitors coming to this location and everybody's coming across that train bridge on Secor, and that's,
They did have
Or
an
they
engineer's
could come
review,
down
and most
yeah, they
people
come
would,
down Snowden, but I meant.
I believe, if
probably
I
would be
recall,
well, I don't know.
Oh, to Metro.
yeah, the traffic study that, as I recall, most of the traffic would not be during commuter times. It would be off-peak, so it wouldn't necessarily happen at the same time everyone's trying to get to the train station, or it will be on weekends. Other museums along the trail, a good example is Dia Beacon. Most people go there by train, or an incredible amount of people go there by train. They actually, Metro North actually reported a 30% increase in train service on the weekend, on non-peak, of people going to that, after that museum opened in Beacon. So I do think many people will travel from there, from New York City, up for a day trip. That will be a common way to come, especially since it will be so convenient.
Right.
It's the transit-oriented development. Yes, there need to be better connections. The museum and everyone who's been involved with the planning knows there has to be a better pedestrian connection, even through wayfinding signage, and even how we make the connections to the upper village. The village has been working on that because we know that it's very important is to make that connection so people just don't get in their cars and leave. And there are many things about the museum, even talking about how you create what is almost like a white space as you're leaving to help people adjust to going through something that is really hard, and they're going to see some things that might be even disturbing, but how do you get people to feel like they just don't want to run home? So that's a lot of things to be considered so that this is a positive impact in the village. And the village has been working in many different aspects in different ways, and for a long time with the Sing Sing Prison. There are representatives from the village that are on the committee, Dana White, the village historian, so there's a lot of people that have been involved.
Jerry, what's the sense of, obviously we realize cars, trains, buses are a big component to these museums. You'll see these buses pulled from the Smithsonian or other places, or, Independence Hall down in Philadelphia. I mean, do you anticipate we're going to see a lot of buses at some point? I mean, if this thing really evolves?
We've talked to a couple of the bus companies through, when Historic Hudson River Town, when we first started the project, we were in a couple of events, we were talking to some of the bus companies about this. The bus traffic to these facilities is not as great as it used to be. When we talk to HHV that run Connecticut, they don't see that many anymore. Most people feel that independence, they want to travel on their own. Plus, we also have the ability of running time tickets. So we can also control the volume of people that come in with the ticket sale. And that's a very strong component of how we can manage this.
So that's an interesting point. So you mentioned Kikett, so people get to Phillipsburg Manor, do their tickets there at the office, and then get on a shuttle bus and go up to Kikett, which is probably a 5 or 10 minute bus ride, a mile or two away. Is that something that could be a possibility here, where so you have a staging area and you bring shuttles in?
That was an initial thought for the project early on in the development. And when Lord Cultural Resources came, did the first feasibility study for us back in 2016, that was one of the options we put on the table. Theory being, we wanted to minimize the amount of traffic on site next to the prison and bring people and have them go to a visitor center in the downtown area, okay? Create more activity there. So we talked about that. HHV said that thing, when they took surveys of people, the thing people hated the most was the shuttle bus. People, when they go park close, and the bathrooms, two critical issues to a visitor. So the concept of the shuttle bus kind of went by the wayside. The problem with it is it's great to use on the days when you're having peak visitation, and you have a lot of people moving in and coming around to move people that way. But on the days when you have limited visitation and you're running a shuttle bus for 6 or 7 hours with 2 or 3 people on board, it's a big money suck, and it's problematic. That's what HHB told us, and that's how come the whole concept died. We did come up with a transportation route that we would use in the peak weekend times that would actually move people from the train station to the museum, take them back up through along Westerly Road. They wanted to stop at a restaurant there, restaurants, bring them back up to the Kilbrook Walkway. They wanted to enjoy that, bring them back up to Main Street, come back up, pick them up again, and come back down. We did show that as a potential. And I believe the economic impact statement talks a little bit to that if we did run the shuttle buses on those peak weekend days in the summer, that it would help increase economic activity in downtown. So that is certainly on the agenda. It is certainly in the mix. It hasn't been, foregone, but it's something that we have to develop as the project moves along.
And the time tickets are almost a requirement because of the corridor, there's
Right.
limited capacity. If they they have to make it bigger with bathrooms or something. So they're very limited and constrained by the corridor of making people spread out the time.
If we make it too big and we get too many people in it, it becomes a place of public assembly, then we have a whole series of different code requirements to meet. So it's easier to manage occupancy and stay within the code requirements.
Which is kind of interesting, because this is a very hypothetical discussion here, and it gets back to my first question, that if the prison did close down, and they closed a significant portion of it down, would the museum expand? So these are things that sort of like, if we're looking at the entire, all the aspects of the site plan and conditional use and the impacts,
And that would,
we need to flush that out.
and that would be a game changer for us too, as far as what the museum is. If you go back and you look at the 1985 Heritage Study that was done, when the first little visitor center was opened up, and Ossining was designated as a heritage site, 113 in the state of New York. At that time, there was a thought that the entire west side of the prison would close, and that whole complex would become part of museum campus.
Does your agreement with the state, is it a license or a lease?
It will be a lease.
And for how many years?
Initially, it can only be for 5 years, and then it has to be renewed. The idea is ultimately to have the state turn the property over to us.
Now, that's the power plant, but what about going into the cell block? Is that covered by the lease or no?
No, that's under that is still under the complete control of the Department of Correctional Services.
That would have to be a license, some type of a license agreement.
Yeah, just because I think this goes to this is, I think, a natural thing that flows from what Mike was suggesting. What if the state does close the prison and, the state can sell property and
Then you're cut
You
off.
can, but
then what's do you have any legal right to continue accessing the cell block or to,
Well,
corridor?
If the village has title to the powerhouse, which is what our goal is, for multiple reasons. Number one, the lease can only be 5 years, and that's a negative in trying to do fundraising for a project of this magnitude. So when we talk to the state, to get the lease expanded from 5 years requires an act of the legislature, just as does the title transfer. We figured might as well just get the title transfer. So that, Sandy Gale has drafted that bill. Like I said, the session ended June 19th, so we just didn't get an opportunity to get it in. But next year it will be in. The license agreement, which would hopefully connect the area where the corridor comes down to the ball field and into the cell block, we would want to make sure that we have a license in perpetuity, not a 100-year $1 license for access.
And Alcatraz gets about
Yes.
1.4 million people per year, which is, they have the entire site. And actually, when I was first working on this, the operators of Alcatraz actually thought this could be more successful because it has a longer history. And the way people like tourism now, they have to go to the real thing, they don't want to go to some dead white guy's house. That they want to see reality and understand the real world. So and it's interesting, I think Eastern State is over $250,000 a year, Eastern State Penitentiary, which is kind of the sisters, the competing prison facility from the early foundings of the United States in Philadelphia. And so it's very likely it could become a whole museum, but it is a very historic property.
And it is an urban prison, and it did close, so that's why I started to say, well, what if, let's flush that out a little more, because, different state, different,
Absolutely.
situation.
Most of the buildings there are built prior to 1940. And most of there's very few things that are new. That's it.
And Jeff, just go back to your question again, too. We would want that long-term lease because that's what we would need from a standpoint of funding.
Right.
Anyone else have any questions? I don't know if anybody's here from the public to talk to this application. I think that is a no.
The notice of intent went to a large, when we saw a large swath of people, because there are a lot of involved agencies.
I only saw the county's response, I didn't see you.
Yeah. It took us a little bit to gather all the addresses and find everyone, so, but we did it. We did it.
Okay. Zoning board, is there anything that they have to review here? Or is
No.
there
I don't think so at this point, no.
No.
EAC, HRC?
EAC would, because of where it's located. It's not within any historic district, and it's not landmark, so, no.
Oh, BAR for any signage, I think that's added to it.
Okay. Have you thought about signage at all? or is-
Again, that's part of that master plan. Once we get Indian on board, by the end of this year, we hope to have a full concept drawing of the exterior, the landscaping, parking, long-term final arrangement, and all the signage.
Okay.
We're just not there yet.
All right, so with that said, I guess we'll adjourn until next month, and we'll
Okay.
continue on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
We'll try to get as many answers to the questions as we can.
I believe that concludes our meeting, except for that one missing AR.
Let's inform Michael. Get informed.
Yeah, right. So we'll have to,
Can I ask what happened to 49 Spring Street? Was it submitted too late, or?
It mistakenly fell off the agenda.
Okay.
It was a mistake on the Department of Planning's part. We thought it got it approved and complete.
Okay.
Like, we thought it was complete, so it dropped off accidentally off the agenda.
Okay, so it'll be on next month?
for BAR, or what do we?
We had a lot of comments on that.
49 is BAR, which is
Yeah.
site plan.
It's complete.
It's site plan and parking waivers.
Right.
You had issues with regard to the wall and how he was going to do everything up at the top, and in terms of the different sites. So,
Yeah, I think, we were concerned about that southerly elevation, and, Jimmy was gonna come back with some.
okay.
Okay, we'll look at it next month.
Okay.
What's in where you just gave us?
Yeah, I saw, that's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
it came in too late,
June
that's why I was
24th
off.
suggested, I think.
Yeah, it just came in.
So-
Look at that for next month.
So that concludes the meeting, and then I guess we'll basically call for a motion to adjourn, and we'll go to a informal, I guess.
I'll move.
Yeah, a second?
Second.
Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks.
And we'll put 24 and a half off for next month.
Yeah, I mean, unless they show back up and we can
Yep.
open the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so that brings us to an informal, which is Birchbrook Manor, Inc., 8189 South Hahn Avenue. Gentlemen?